Hello, and welcome to episode 192 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Joe. This week, a movie about a brainless, monstrous ghouls who look like death warmed up and want to do nothing but kill and destroy. And on that note, welcome Chris Morris. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Caught any good trains lately?
Let me see. Well, I get on a almost daily basis. I get the Thames link through central London, which is quite a good train service, as they are in the UK.
Yeah, you're very well connected in this sort of area of London.
Yeah, yeah. How about you? What's your favourite train?
I quite like the one from where we live in Hampshire to the centre of Southampton.
Right. Yeah, where we grew up.
Yeah, we no longer live there, but yeah, 5 stops and you're there. It's nice. Sometimes straight through.
Well, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you could get the fast track service.
Express.
Yeah. Remember last week when someone said, "Can you review the film before you get into spoilers?" We will not do that, but what we will do is laboriously talk about train journeys from our childhood.
Yeah, you're a train spotter, aren't you? You've done that a lot of that.
I have never done that.
You bit of that bit. Got like a £4,000 camera just to photograph in the front of trains as they come by.
Serial numbers.
I live near a train station and I live near an airport.
Yeah.
There's so many fucking anoraks. They've got like lenses that must be like military grade.
Yeah.
And they sit in deck chairs with their little thermoses photographing planes flying over.
Listen, don't hobby shame people.
I'm not hobby shaming.
Well, you are.
I don't understand.
You called them anoraks.
They are wearing anoraks. I'm not talking about the people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the clothing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the film, Joe.
Right. The movie is Train to Busan.
Yes.
Or Busan. I do not know the Korean pronunciation.
Yeah, there'll be lots of mispronounced Korean throughout this episode, and this is the disclaimer. This is the foreign language disclaimer at the start of the thing that we apologise.
Like I like to, when people email in, I say often, if you've got a difficult name, spell it out phonetically for me. Yeah, I'd like to advise the same of all foreign language directors. For my benefit, please supply pronunciation guides for your movies. The director of this movie in question is Yeon Sang-ho, who made this. Also made Psychokinesis and another movie called Seoul Station, which is seen as a prequel to Train to Busan.
Is that like an animated feature?
That's right. Yeah, it is. He's also apparently working on Train to Busan 2, which begins filming this year.
Okay.
And does include some characters from the original.
Okay.
As zombies.
Well, in the spirit of the email that we received last week, shall we talk about whether or not we like the film before we move on to the spoiler chat, as we normally do?
This was an email from Clive, if you recall.
Yes.
So this is Clive's Law being enacted.
Right, Clive's Law, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like Train to Busan?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes,
Recommend
I did.
it?
I would recommend it. It's on Amazon Prime in the UK if anyone wants to seek it out. And I heartily recommend that you do so.
Good fun.
It is good fun.
There you go, Clive. Happy now? Email in. All right, so we're going to recap the plot of Train to Busan for anyone who hasn't seen it lately or, despite our recommendations, wants to listen anyway for some reason. And you'll get to hear my pronunciation of Korean names for the next 5 to 6 minutes. We're going to spoil the film rotten, naturally.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and how we would survive if we found ourselves on the train from Seoul to Busan during a zombie outbreak. All that and more after this.
All aboard!
So, Chris, the movie, Train to Busan. Sek Woo is a financier who spends too much time on the old worker hole and not enough time with his daughter, Suan. He's divorced from Suan's mother, but Suan wants to spend her birthday with her mother in Busan. And so they board a train to Busan. So far, so good. So predictable.
All is well.
Meanwhile, an outbreak of a terrible illness has occurred, and the population of urbanized Korea, South Korea, is quickly turning into violent zombies.
When you say meanwhile, it's literally, it just begins happening as they're getting on the train.
Yeah.
It's not like they've been... There's no typical zombie movie scene of them going, boy, these riots are out of control in neighbouring city.
Yeah. That kind of happens concurrently.
It does eventually.
That's what meanwhile means,
but yes, the outbreak is just beginning though.
Yes. As their train leaves the station, a dying woman boards and dies and swiftly turns into a zombie. She attacks train staff and passengers, and soon half of the train have been turned into zombies, as the other half tries to hold them off. All the while, the train speeds along. News updates tell the passengers that the zombie attack is happening in all major cities across Korea, and the train crew announced that they will not be stopping until they reach Daejeon. At Daejeon, the train pulls in and they find a ghost town. The army has come in and is evacuating everyone, setting up quarantine zones. The passengers alight, but soon discover that the army who were managing the evacuation have all been turned into zombies themselves.
This was my favourite scene that I've seen in a horror movie for a long time.
Which part?
As the group of train passengers head out of the station, they go down a set of escalators, which are descending, and there's like a roof of the building that they're in. And as the escalator descends, they can finally see like out of the door.
Yeah.
To see that there's like dozens and dozens and dozens of zombies just outside the building with like no protection.
Yeah, right. They're just, they're
at which point they're on a sort of generation game conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Just going down.
Just chucking each other, like trying to get out.
Yeah, but like as in they're just like being fed into a zombie machine, basically.
Yeah. Is that the part you said you cackled at?
Yeah. It's so obvious, but it's so well done. And I think it's sort of indicative of the tone that's run all the way through the film.
Yes.
Where everything is funny and scary.
Yeah, that's right.
But like not like Shaun of the Dead funny, more like entertaining. You're having a good time watching.
Yes, exactly. More on that shortly. So, with a literal army of zombies, they now have to run away. Sek-woo is accosted by a zombie, and Soo-an, his daughter, is rescued by a pregnant woman, Song-kyung, and her no-nonsense husband, Sang-hwa. They escape back to the train, leaving Sek-woo and Sang-hwa to hold off the zombie horde with the help of a high school baseball team who were also on the train, which makes for some good fun with baseball bats. The train pulls away from the station. Sek-woo, Sang-hwa, and a baseball player named Yong-guk fight their way to the train and board near the rear. Yong-guk's teammates are all killed, but his girlfriend, Jin-hee, is at the other end of the train with the other survivors, because there's a couple of dozen who are still on the train. Sek-woo's daughter, Soo-an, is hiding in a toilet in the middle of the train with the pregnant Sang-kyung and an old lady named In-gil. The three men liberate the three women, and they fight their way to the front of the train to a larger group of survivors. Under the leadership of businessman Yeon-suk and a train guard, the survivors refuse to let our heroes enter the safety of their carriage, having locked the door. Sang-hwa and Sek-woo hold off the horde, while Yong-guk tries to break the door down with a baseball bat. Sang-hwa is bitten and sacrifices himself to the horde so that the other heroes can escape. They enter the safety of the survivors' carriage, but In-gil, the old lady, is killed while her sister watches on from safety, helpless. The businessman Yeon-suk orders our heroes into the vestibule at the front of the train, fearing that they may be infected. To punish his selfishness and having given up all hope for humanity, In-gil's sister, Jeon-gil, opens the door and lets in all the zombies, killing herself and all the other survivors. The train pulls into a junction and reaches a blocked track. The driver jumps out and attempts to find a replacement train to Busan, telling the survivors to meet him on another track. After some spectacular action involving derailments and fires and explosions, it's revealed that Yeon-suk, the businessman, survived the horde. he sacrifices the train guard, the 2 teenagers, and the train driver in his attempt to escape. Sek-won, Suan, and Song-kyung board the train as it moves down the track, and a huge number of zombies grab the back being dragged along. But I think that was the part that I enjoyed the most.
Right.
Just like a huge carriage of zombies.
Yeah.
In the train cabin, Sek-won finds Yeon-suk, who has been infected. Yeon-suk is confused and eventually succumbs to the infection, biting Sek-won. Sek-won throws him from the train and quickly puts Sang-kyung in charge of Suan. After a particularly harrowing farewell, he too succumbs to the infection, with the memory of Suan's birth playing in his mind as he dies. Sang-kyung and Suan ride the train to Busan and disembark when they hit a blockage on the track. Heading through a tunnel, they're spotted by a group of soldiers who are ordered to open fire, but Suan begins singing, proving that they are not infected, and the movie ends as soldiers move in to save them. And that cheery film is Train to Busan.
But it is cheery though, isn't it?
In a way.
It's not as bleak as that makes it out to be, in some senses.
It's one of the most harrowing endings to a movie we've covered, I think. I found it really upsetting.
Really?
Yeah, genuinely.
Okay. Well, which element of it did you find harrowing?
Like I don't know, they found the best ever child actress, and she's like traumatized. As like you really feel like she's losing her father, and he's like crying and like.
Yeah, it's like they went, now imagine you're going to lose your dad, and she started crying and never stopped, ever.
Yeah, it's so brutal.
Yeah.
Like, I know what you mean, as much like the point of his story is so his daughter survives. So it's like, oh, there's kind of a happy ending to it. There's closure in it. But it is so harrowing.
Yeah, it is harrowing. And it's harrowing in the way that zombie movies often are, where, the one that always occurs to me is Brendan Gleeson's character in 28 Days Later.
Yes, exactly.
So the makeup of a zombie movie allows for a particular type of death where someone knows
they're about to die very quickly.
Right, and also knows that they're about to turn into a threat.
Yeah.
And so the scene in which Brendan Gleeson's character gets, spoilers for 28 Days Later, but it's like 18 years old now.
Right.
That's intensely harrowing because of the emotional punch it carries. And Sek-woo turning in this has a similar feel to it.
Yeah,
and I really liked the sort of poetry with which they show his turning.
Yeah,
so that
he chose to think about a certain thing with his last seconds.
Yeah, and I don't know. You sort of hope that that's what is left in it. If there's anything left in his brain, that's what it is, and and he sort of makes sure that he falls off the train.
Yeah, exactly.
And they show that quite nicely, so it's silent and it's just his silhouette falling off and stuff.
That's very nice.
Yeah, it's really nicely poetically done. And there are, when Sang-hwa dies,
it's a similar feeling.
It's a similar feeling because he's leaving behind his pregnant wife, and he's doing it with an act of heroism.
Yeah.
And the zombie movies are littered with these sorts of moments.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 comparisons that sprang to mind for me, which was 28 Days Later, obviously.
Yeah,
that's the obvious one. Like the frantically trying to get his daughter to get away from him while telling her he loves her. Yeah, that's so harrowing. And also Cargo.
Okay, yeah.
Very similar ending. The whole movie in that case is about trying to get a child across the infected wasteland. Mm-hmm. And the ending is fairly similar in terms of its melodrama. Yeah. Like it is high emotion in both cases.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's a similar poetry the way you suggested. I won't spoil that, but you can also probably compare it to Bird Box in some ways. Though I think that's a massively inferior film.
Yes, absolutely it is.
And I have to say that I'm glad they didn't go all out Dawn of the Dead with the pregnant woman. I think there could have been there was always that risk that something's going to happen to it.
Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I'm glad that the innocent child and the pregnant woman survived. Yeah. I feel like that's the right choice for this film to make.
Yeah.
It would have been too bleak if they hadn't.
They've got taste armor on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, generally thinking, what did you think of the movie?
I really, really enjoyed it, yeah. I thought there was some absolutely top drawer horror set pieces. I really liked at the start how you only catch glimpses of the outbreak.
Yeah.
Like the woman running on the train just happens in the background of a shot, basically. And then you've got the homeless man who has seen the outbreak occurring and things like that. And as I mentioned, the scene in Daejeon when they go down the escalators, I was just like giddy with excitement. It was just sort of a combination of one of the funniest and most exciting and most thrilling scenes that I've seen in a horror movie for years. I think it's really fun and really tense. Like how many horror movies do we watch where there's just sort of like an element, some sort of, whether it's the tone or the taste or whatever, just some part of it makes it a bit of a sort of endurance test. This just didn't feel like that at all. It felt like a sort of adventure.
It was a pleasure to watch.
Yeah.
Despite its, another movie I watched this weekend was Catch Me If You Can.
Right.
Which is similarly
a romp.
paced.
Yeah, an absolute romp.
Like if you had zombies in Catch Me If You Can, it would be better.
But I think one thing this film does really well is it sort of draws out every possibility of a zombie movie that's set on a train. So just, if you are sitting down to write a zombie movie, you might do a sort of brainstorm, write train in the middle, and then just off of all of that,
small toilets.
You'd have stations, escalators, compartments, toilets, luggage racks, tunnels, crashes, depots. Like every avenue is covered, basically.
Yeah, by train zombie movie.
Yeah, including sliding doors as well, which is a nice touch.
Trying to hold them closed.
Yeah,
that's great. We'll come to the zombies, but
the zombies can't open the doors because they don't understand
how sliding doors work.
How sliding doors work.
Yeah.
And also, I like the touch that the zombies stop attacking you if they can't see you directly. Yeah. So they just like
paper it with newspaper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Paper up the windows or something, and they just like stop instantly, which is a great way of signaling like how animalistic they've become.
Yeah, it's really good. I think like it's an amazing blend of cartoony horror and like genuine pathos. And you mentioned Shaun of the Dead, right?
Yeah.
I think you can compare it to Shaun of the Dead in some ways because it has genuine emotion.
Yeah.
And it's light-hearted, but also, quite upsetting at times.
Yes. Yeah.
And, despite being about a zombie apocalypse, it is somewhat believable. It's somewhat grounded in our reality. It's a serious film in some ways, but it's refreshing that it doesn't take itself too seriously.
No.
Right? The zombies are cartoonish, they're flappy, they're visceral, they're twitchy, and they're a lot of fun. But the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
And the emotional payoff at the end is harrowing. I've seen a negative review which described it as Snowpiercer with zombies, which I think completely misunderstands both films.
Yeah.
But the reviewer, David Ehrlich, says that the characters whittle away into archetypes and start making senseless decisions, and the spectacle also sheds its unique personality, which I didn't find really.
No, I didn't find that.
Real archetype for me was the businessman.
Yes.
Who was like just nonsense, basically. So like they needed someone to be like the agent of chaos.
Yeah, it's the classic zombie thing of there needs to be a baddie, like there needs to be a big bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. I thought it was fucking excellent, basically.
Yeah, I agree very much.
With all those flappy, cartoony zombies, do you think this is a 15-year-old boy movie, which we've been discussing in recent weeks, or is it a modern masterpiece? Or can it be both?
Well, I think masterpiece might be too strong a term, but I think it is certainly a more creative and fun film than a 15-year-old boy movie would imply, or a My First Horror, which is a sort of substitute phrase that we use a lot. Yeah, and I think, there's a lot of the elements that I would... I think there are a lot of things in your standard My First Horror zombie movie that are absent from this, which is to its credit. So, for example, you don't have a cure as like a MacGuffin. There's no sort of scientist guy.
No, right, yeah. He's like, we were trying to cure everything.
Yeah, exactly. There's no quest to sort of find a solution. and there's no person who's secretly responsible. You know, like the businessman could be actually he's the CEO of the chemical company.
Exactly,
Like, there's none of that stuff.
There is kind of that, because it's revealed that their hedge fund manages a huge amount of money that's invested into the company that did it.
Yeah, but I think that's far enough removed that it doesn't meaningfully impact the film, really, does it? And I also don't think it loses out by the fact that it doesn't sort of unnecessarily broaden its setup in the way that you get with something like 28 Days Later, because until the last, like literally the last 5 minutes, it's pretty much all set in and around trains. I mean, even the last 5 minutes is a train tunnel, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But the in 28 Days Later, the film never quite gets back up to the same quality once they leave London.
When you're in the house and stuff.
Right, exactly, yeah. It becomes a bit weird, in my opinion. But
it's great.
But I don't think this film falls into that trap.
Fair enough. I think you're probably right. If the concept is zombies on a train, then that's what you get.
Yeah.
I think that the reason I wanted that comparison between the 15-year-old boy movie and when that came out first was Overlord, which is, it does have all of the things you described, right?
Yeah.
It does have the people responsible for it. It does have the mad scientist. It does have the cure.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Not the cure, but the cause,
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
The serum.
A MacGuffin, yeah. There's all the cartoony violence. There's the twitchy deaths and the visceral nature of the zombies. And they make it a perfect movie for 15-year-old boys. I think a 15-year-old boy could get a lot out of this film. And I'm speaking of myself having been a 15-year-old boy and having enjoyed this type of movie.
Yeah, but then the violence in this film is not gratuitous in the same way that the violence in Overlord is. I don't think.
No, exactly. There's not much wound detail and stuff.
No.
But I think this movie has a lot of heart, right?
Yes.
The cat's in the cradle feeling of being torn between your work and your child is made very believable by the film. Sec 1 clearly has to battle between being considered selfish and actually doing something which is fairly selfless, which is trying to make his daughter or give her a better life, right?
Yeah.
And I think he ends up vindicated in the most tragic way possible in the end. So it's like very bittersweet, but it also raises up the movie up like several grades for having that kind of like human payoff to it.
Yeah, I think I agree. And you're right to sort of draw the comparison to something like Shaun of the Dead, which, I think you forget that is where that heart that the film has is a big part of why it's so successful, isn't it?
Mm. So we talked about the zombies in this, and they are quite interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're not complete walkers.
No.
Is that what they call them in Walking Dead?
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Just like wanderers who, if you go near them, they might bite you.
Yeah.
But they're not just infected people either, or cargo or 28 days later.
Yeah.
They're definitely zombies in the traditional sense,
down
to the fact that they can't seem to work out how to slide a door open.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed how dangerous they still are. Right? If you were in the room with one of them, it would be a real life or death situation. And that's just one of them.
Yeah.
There's one where they lock him in the toilet, a zombie. And I was thinking, later, that's going to be like a Jack in the Box. Someone's going to open that door and he's going to jump out.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out that way, but I thought that would have been like...
I think it does, doesn't it? Doesn't the homeless guy like open the door and then shut it again because he realises there's zombies in there?
Possibly, yeah.
I think something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. But you don't want to be anywhere near them because they're so chaotic and violent and they can kill you instantly. But they're also stupid enough that it doesn't feel unbelievable when they're just taking them on en masse.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be in the room with one alone, but equally, if you're swinging a baseball bat around, you could probably knock a few of them over.
And if you're organised and you've got a riot shield and all that sort of thing,
and you know what to do with it.
Yeah. Good military tacticians when facing a horde of the undead.
Yeah.
Could have been useful in other media.
Yeah.
That we've seen recently. I think the 28 Days Later is the obvious touch point. Just because that film sort of defined the fast zombie thing.
Yes. Dawn of the Dead did as well. Which was first?
I think 28 Days Later was a couple of years before Dawn of the Dead. It was 2002. Dawn of the Dead was 2004.
Right. This is, like you said, the modern Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. Then, of course, they're dumb, like you say, which does remind me to some extent of The Walking Dead or Shaun of the Dead, and the bits where they are able to sneak past the zombies when it's dark is, to me, sort of recalls when in Shaun of the Dead they all just pretend to be zombies.
Yeah, right. I did wonder whether they were going to do that. Yeah.
But then also you've got the sort of World War Z thing where they are almost like a wave. So in World War Z, I don't think you've seen it, have you?
No.
But you might have seen that there are scenes where zombies sort of pile. They create a sort of pile that then allows other zombies to climb on top of it.
Right.
Not consciously, just like they're all dumbly flowing towards a point.
Well, that's in the Battle of Winterfell in Game of Thrones.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Like just a like sea of the undead washes over the main characters.
Yes,
and they all just survive. That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. No, but that whole thing of it being like a sea. There's a scene where they're fleeing from the Daejeon station, and they start basically running off the roof of the station towards the train and towards the platform in a way that reminded me of the zombies being like a sort of a force en masse.
When they're all hanging off the back of it as well, like a net.
It's just it's like they are, as a horde, they become like one thing as opposed to a number of individuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they kind of, but then that doesn't take away from the fact that they are still intimidating and dangerous.
Of course, yeah.
As units.
Yeah.
Yeah. So zombies on a train. Nice high concept stuff. And like you said, it's all set around trains. But if you could have a zombie movie set anywhere, where would you have it? Based on, the fact that they can use the environments and keep it nice and high concept.
I think the obvious comparison to Train to Busan would be to have it on a plane.
Plane to Busan.
Plane to Busan, yeah. Which has already been done in Quarantine 2 Terminal. And I don't think John Eric Dowdall returned for that one. Yeah. But I haven't seen Quarantine 2 Terminal. One thing that I like the idea of is a cruise ship.
That would be fun.
They are notoriously a terrible place for breeding sickness among passengers. For example, norovirus.
Yeah.
If you're on a cruise ship and someone gets norovirus, everyone has norovirus, like instantly.
Yeah.
And, it's basically another example of a sort of kind of capsule scenario where people can't just easily escape.
Nice potted story.
Yeah. But the idea that came to me when you posed this question in our notes is something that I've thought before, which is that in zombie films you so often just have a horde, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought would be interesting is like a whole film where someone gets trapped by one zombie and they're like in a wardrobe or like a bathroom.
Right.
And the whole film is them trying to get out, like escape this one zombie that knows they're in there. And, you can have the classic thing with like a bottle movie where, they try, you have 5 minutes where they're trying this idea.
Yeah.
And then you have 5 minutes where they're trying this idea. And then like, oh no, maybe that, a bit of the door's missing now. And like,
he's punching his way through.
Yeah, like the stakes get higher and higher. And it would be like something like Buried or Phone Booth or whatever. But in fact, a phone booth would be a great idea because the zombie could see you inside.
Not much you can do in there though.
Yeah, but the joy of those films where someone is stuck somewhere, especially if it's somewhere that we can all relate to, is the joy of imagining like, what could I use from that environment to try and escape or to kill a zombie?
I love it. That's good. How would they kill them in the end? Would they die?
Well, I don't know. Let's say if it was a bathroom would you try like pouring bleach out of it?
Of course,
like,
spray it on
a spray, like a fucking toilet brush. Like, then are you trying to like take the towel rack off the wall?
Yeah.
And all the time, like there's zombies like trying to get in. And then do you like try and build a sort of zombie protection suit out of whatever you've got in the bathroom? Like, do you put every item of dirty laundry that you've got on to try and
make it like an armor?
Yeah. Well, actually, that reminds me of something that they do in Train to Busan, which I quite liked, which was that they tape up their forearms so that if they get so that if they get bitten, it won't go through. Yeah. Which I really like that little touch. But yeah, like the idea of if you taking this, like all zombie films are always about quantity of people, right? That's where zombies become scary.
Yeah, but one on its own is just as scary.
Exactly, if it's in the right scenario. I think that'd be quite interesting.
An alien on its own in a spaceship.
Yeah, well, that would be
scary.
That would be scary.
And then many aliens together is cause for concern.
Yeah. Someone should do a film about that.
I thought about maybe in a submarine could be interesting.
Okay, yeah. That would be
which is basically Alien, now I think of it.
Well, yeah, I guess it's space or submarine or whatever, isn't it? But yeah, no, that's a good idea though, because again, you could toy with all the various things that you might expect to find on a submarine, and how would they be used to combat zombies?
But then I guess when you have it with the military, it becomes a little bit less.
Yeah.
And it would have to be military to be a submarine. There's not many.
No. Civilian submarine.
I did look into it to see if this has happened before. And there's a movie called Shockwaves, which is a 1977 horror film, written and directed by Ken Viederhorn.
Right.
In the UK, it's known as Almost Human.
Okay.
The screenplay concerns a group of tourists who encounter aquatic Nazi zombies when they become shipwrecked. It stars Peter Cushing as the former SS commander.
Peter Cushing in it.
Brooke Adams as a tourist, and John Carradine as the captain of the tourist's boat.
Goodness me. Should we cover it?
Yeah, next week. Shockwaves.
Yeah.
I did think, and you'll probably see what I mean by this, there's several times in this movie where I was reminded of John Wick.
Okay.
In terms of just like how the violence is edited, I think. Like fighting and stuff. Because it's like, the zombies jump on them, the camera follows them to ground. It's not cut like a...
Yeah, it's quite dynamically shot.
Yeah, it's dynamically shot, is a good way to describe it. And because it's Korean, obviously John Wick is influenced by Asian martial arts films.
Yeah.
So there's a lot... Like, this is what I'd say a proto-Korean movie in a way. Like, this is what I kind of expect from Korean cinema. And John Wick has a lot of that as well. Mm-hmm. How would you feel about John Wick versus zombies?
Mate, bring it on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll watch John Wick in anything.
Yeah. John Wick 3 coming out soon?
John Wick 3 coming out in a couple of days at the time of recording. Super excited.
Yeah.
Big fan of John Wick. If you're listening, John, big fan of your work. Yeah.
Do you think he's still going to be listening after John Wick 3? He's got to be.
Oh, yeah. Mate.
John Wick 4.
They're not killing John Wick. No one's killing John Wick. My hope for John Wick 3, which I don't think has been borne out by the trailers, my hope for it would be that, and this is, I guess, it is a spoiler for the end of John Wick 2. The end of John Wick 2, he's in New York, and every assassin in New York
is alerted to him.
Is alerted that there's a like $15 million price on his head. Mm-hmm. And so my hope for John Wick 3 was that it would be let's say 90 minutes. It would be a real time escape from New York with John Wick. And so he's got the length of the film to get away from New York, and it plays out in real time.
But he will call a cab, and the cab driver will be
it would just be
a samurai.
It would be it would be like a video game or like a playground game. Like you are in the middle of Central Park in New York.
How did you get out of it?
Get out of New York in 90 minutes, and everyone wants to kill you.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Everyone is revealed to be an assassin.
Right, exactly.
So when he hails a cab, they just drive into him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But then, you could do so much with that idea. Yeah. But then, by the looks of the trailer, he's in a desert and all sorts of shit. So
I'm fine with that as well.
Yeah, listen. I'm not complaining, and I'll watch whatever they put up on it.
John Wick versus zombies.
All I know is they may as well, rather than a trailer or a poster, they may as well just put up a PDF that said, John Wick 3 contains a scene where he fights off motorcycle assassins while riding a horse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just whatever the cost is, I'll pay it.
You'll fund the movie.
Yeah.
Oh. Executive producer, Chris Morris. John Wick 4. Like, it's just him
the review,
in a room with a zombie outside, and you're like, yeah. Fine.
The only review that I need to see is just, this is another John Wick movie. And it's 5 stars from me.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Baba Yaga.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is like old witch or something. Yeah. It's like, well, it means, I think it means boogeyman.
Yeah.
But also Baba Yaga in like Russian is a specific
type
monster.
Right.
It'd be like calling him a werewolf or whatever. But is like about the Baba Yaga is like a witch that lives in the woods. So it makes like fucking no sense whatsoever.
Don't ask.
But it doesn't stop them fucking putting it on the screen in like massive glowing letters.
Baba Yaga.
We should start a podcast which is called the John Wick Minute.
Yeah.
What, like, you know those
Star Wars Minute.
Yeah. So just watch a minute of John Wick every week.
I'll do it.
Every episode is 5 hours long.
All right. So with all that said, matey.
Yeah.
How would you survive if you were on the train to Busan?
Well, this is a good old mealy-mouthed one to get started, Joe.
Get off the train.
No, if you buy a portable games console, keeping it in the box negates its purpose. The little girl has a Nintendo DS.
DS Lite, I think.
Yeah, and it'll be a 3DS or something, I don't know. 2DS XL maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of different formats now. But if you've got one of them, it's a portable games console, that's the idea. Don't keep it in its oversized cardboard box in your bag, because that fully negates the purpose of it being portable. You're increasing its size by about 400%. And I know what you're going to say, Joe, because I have had the same thought. I fear that this is a concession to product placement.
No, I wasn't going to say
Nintendo.
That. I wasn't going to say that. It's her birthday. She's probably just given it.
Yeah. What? She was giving it at home, yeah, presumably.
Maybe not. Maybe in the car. Maybe.
Well, you don't. No, I don't believe you.
You don't see her get given it, do you?
No, you don't.
So where did it come from?
Well,
so in your come on.
I'll tell
give me
you
the off-screen explanation that's better than my off-screen explanation.
Okay, yeah, sure. In a couple of scenes prior, the father buys her a Nintendo Wii U,
yeah,
right, and she's already got one. So she's
so on the way to the train, he stops and changes it.
Fine.
In its box.
Okay, fine. You don't need.
And he says to the person in the shop, "Don't give me the box." And they're like, "No, you need it in case you bring it back." And he's like, "No,
I'm not going to bring it back.
I'm never going to bring it back.
I'm a financier.
Yeah,
and you're a zombie.
Yeah." So
fine.
That is.
I said it was mealy mouthed, and we'll move on.
Well, that is mealy mouthed, mate.
Yeah, it is indeed. Have you got any ideas?
Yeah. Don't text while driving.
Okay.
Matey at the beginning runs over the old deer, doesn't he?
Does, yeah.
I mean, by old deer, I mean
a deer.
A stag.
Yeah.
Texting while driving.
Yeah, it was.
So don't do that. And it has actually no bearing on the events of the film.
Does he survive? We don't know.
Probably not.
Doesn't get bitten by the zombie deer.
And he's also
zombie
driving
deer,
away.
by the way. Probably a as yet unforeseen zombie animal.
No, I think it's been in other things for some reason. Where I've seen that before. Oh, I'm thinking of Evil Dead 2. The mounted deer head.
Yeah. Could also have said Annihilation, the floral deer.
Yeah. All zombie deers.
I mean, I'm all for road safety, so that not texting while driving, even though it didn't make a tangible difference. Yeah, it didn't make a tangible difference in this instance, but it's very good advice generally.
Yeah. A good Werner Herzog movie, 1 second to the next, about texting while driving.
Oh yeah.
He just became like an advocate for like people, like an activist against texting while driving.
Not an advocate for.
But like, it's, you know how Werner Herzog movies are just insanely weird.
Yeah.
The one that there's a guy who's like, oh yeah, I was texting while driving, and I look down, I look up again, and I hit an Amish man in the back, like an Amish family crashed into their car and killed the family.
They had a car?
No, they were in a cart.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, I went to the funeral, and the Amish man said he forgave me. And it's just like, what the fuck? This like 10 minutes ago we were talking about high school, and he's like, I'm really sad I killed these Amish people. Which you would be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with what he's saying. It's just like, how did Werner Herzog find like the weirdest possible incident? Where an Amish
he's like the most niche possible example to use.
Yeah, and it's like there's some poetry to it as well, like people who eschew technology getting killed.
Exactly. Yeah, that's probably what attracted him to the story, isn't it?
He told me that he did not see the horse and cart coming. But why? So what about you? Any more? Don't text while driving, just to be clear. Don't text while driving.
Yeah, absolutely. My next one is for Sekwu. It is a piece of advice. Don't mansplain trains.
Who's he mansplaining to?
He mansplains to Song Kyung.
Does he die because of it?
No, but if you'll allow me, Sekwu is dying from a combination of blood loss and bloodborne infection. He takes the time to explain how to drive a train to Song Kyung when he himself has no idea how to do it and is in no fit state to surmise that information. He literally runs into the cabin. There's a scene where he runs into the cabin, looks at like a few dials, and then drags Song Kyung into the cabin and goes, oh, this is the brake, this is the accelerator or whatever. Yeah. You could be fucking saying anything. Like, could be like the self-destruct button, the accelerate and never stop accelerating button, right? You're not in any fit state. And also, Song Kyung knows as much about trains as you do. So, like, any information that you've gleaned from your 5-second frenzied look around at various unlabeled levers and buttons, she is going to be as cogent in drawing conclusions from that information as you are. If anything, she's going to be in a better state to draw those conclusions because she's not bleeding to death.
Do you think that maybe he just wants to get across, like he wants to get things in order?
Get things across.
He wants to get
Song Kyung, please listen to me. Don't crash the train.
No, more like he... Okay, does she enact his advice?
Well, we don't.
Does she survive?
She does survive. We don't know whether necessarily his advice had a meaningful effect on her actions, and I'd wager that it didn't, because any information that he would have imparted, she would have been able to glean herself. If anything, he just comes across as a mansplainer, and that's not how you want to be remembered in your final moments, is it?
What, getting things in order?
What, mansplaining? What, when you if you're dying of blood loss at home and you're like running around going, this is the TV remote, Hannah. If you want to turn it on, you got to press the red button on it.
No, but if it was like, if like we were in a speeding car and I was like, Hannah, make sure you press the brake. I think this is the brake.
No, but you're not like it would be more like you're in a speedboat.
Yeah.
And Hannah, your wife, is a doctor, right? But you've got as much experience as each other at,
speedboatery.
Yeah. You would be mansplaining because you're relying on your.
But is mansplaining? I'm not trying to like take a position against
mansplaining is
okay, but I know what it is.
Let me explain it to you.
Is it? I thought it was explaining like female stuff to women. Like saying,
I think
you need to buy more tampons or something.
No. I think mansplaining is more associated with feminism because typically it's men explaining things to women who either already know it or know more about the subject than the man, but the man has through society and his own arrogance has a sort of inbuilt confidence in what he's saying that outweighs any contextual.
No, I understand, but I always thought it was more like it would only be around things that
it's about anything know. Like so if you went up to someone at an SEO conference and she's like head SEO of Google,
director of SEO,
right, and you went, now let me tell you a little something that I know about SEO. You'd be mansplaining because it's like, well, of course she fucking knows it. And like you're only doing that because she's a woman. You wouldn't do that if she was a man.
It's not like, I don't know. Yeah, I say it.
But I mean, I think she would also be offended if you went, up to her and said, "Let me tell you what tampons to use," which was your first.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I'm not saying either is appropriate. I'm just saying that's what I thought mansplaining meant. But I'm glad you fucking explained it to me.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're a man who can explain things.
Yes, exactly. If anything, people should be grateful.
Just trying to help. Final bit of advice from me then.
Okay.
At one point, you've got Sekwon, Suam, In-gil, the old lady, Sen-kyung, the pregnant woman, and Sang-hwa and Yong-guk. All these people, 6 of them, 3 men, 3 women, all in toilets, protected. And they're like, you know what we need to do? Go through 3 carriages to get to the other survivors. Why? They're already safe.
Well, they're only safe in the sort of, transient sense that they're all safe when they're not being directly eaten.
Yeah.
And I think safety in numbers is a thing to some extent.
It doesn't bear out in this film, though.
Well, it doesn't, but that's because of the sort of malign actions of a few individuals, isn't it? I mean, I'm not gonna criticize the people, the father trying to reunite with his daughter during a time of crisis.
They're together. They're just in opposite toilets at that point.
Oh, so it's when they've already reunited.
A specific point when they're reunited. There's no real need other than Yong-guk trying to find Jin-hee.
But let's say that a door winds up being opened. It's not a good situation from that point onwards, is it?
No, I suppose.
It's not a permanently safe situation. And also, if they stayed on the train, if they stayed in there, all that would happen is that they'd get to the point where the train has to stop and then they'd have to move anyway.
Yeah, but then they'd all be alive. At least one of them dies because
they don't know that they're going to be sort of betrayed by the businessman.
No, they don't. But at the same time,
they
know they're safe there. I think they do.
I don't think it is safe because, like I said, they're adjacent to a horde of zombies, and if one of the doors ends up being opened, by however means, then they're all going to die. Whereas if you can get on the other side of some of those sliding doors and cover the glass up, then they're much safer, aren't they? I understand your point, but I think it's a risk worth taking.
You're kind of thinking they're stuck at an outpost and surrounded when they could be back at the HQ.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, behind the walls. Yeah,
I've got some kind of castle wall rather than fighting outside of the castle walls for some reason.
I've got one more idea, which is for the soldiers in Busan, which is just why wouldn't you set up spotlights in the tunnel? Because you'd lose none of your defensive strategy against the zombies who will attack you and hunt you regardless.
Yeah.
And in fact, it might even help you if it blinds them, because you could dazzle their vision and they're not going to spot you at all.
Yeah.
And you'd also avoid the risk of just shooting random civilians dead.
You don't want any false positives in that one, do you?
No, and every single person who comes through that tunnel is going to be a silhouette.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many non-singing refugees they've shot dead.
Yeah. I mean, alternatively, just shout hello and see if they shout hello back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you go
but they
hello
have the
and they go
equipment to
then they're infected.
Yeah, that is true. That is probably sight is an easier confirmation than sound at that distance. I think. Yeah, would set up spotlights then.
Yeah.
Set up spotlights.
Both.
You can see further than you can hear.
Who said that?
That's my piece of advice.
Yeah, it's fine. I agree with it. Yeah. I mean, just
I can tell that you agree with it by the way you've picked holes in it and then gone. Oh,
yeah, no, fine, mate. Fine. Well, that was Train to Busan, mate.
Yeah,
enjoy it.
I really did.
And would you enjoy more the movie or talking about it with me?
The movie always.
Great. Even in the case of that Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah. Yes.
Next week, another movie. Snowpiercer.
Also set on a train.
You seen it?
I have, yeah, many years ago.
What do you think of it?
I enjoyed it.
Good.
Did you?
Yeah, sort of. It's weird.
It's on Netflix in the UK, we believe.
Yeah.
So you've got some time to go and check that out.
It's weird and good.
Did you get the metaphor of that film?
What?
Snowpiercer. I mean, it's not even a metaphor. It's about class, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 It's
I was
not-
going to say,
it's-
what metaphor do
It's
you
not subtext, it's just text.
Snowpiercer. Snow, cocaine. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go. That's the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Snowpiercer's next week. Train season continues apace. Next stop. Our next station stop will be Snowpiercer,
Yeah.
where this train terminates.
This is a train to Snowpiercer. Calling at Snowpiercer.
Please.
If you wish to alight,
Yeah.
please use the front 7 carriages
Exactly, mate.
for this, because Snowpiercer has a short platform. A trolley service
Please
with
remember to
drinks
take
and
all of your
refreshments.
belongings with you when you leave the carriage. If you see something that you don't like,
You see something that doesn't look right.
that's right. If you see something that doesn't look right, tell a station staff or a police officer who'll be happy to help. See it, say it, sort it. I don't get a chain much, I don't know. Anyway, mate, we've got some emails in. Do you want to hear them?
Yes.
The email address is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com.
Thank you.
howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. That email again, howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. And Jake has used that email.
Hello, Jake.
Dear Joe/Chris, big fan of the podcast. Keep up the good work. As a shout out, could I recommend a How to Survive trilogy on the Hostel series? Kind regards, guys. Jake Green.
Thanks very much, Jake. What do you reckon? Will we cover the Hostel series?
So we've all often said, like, since day one, we said we wouldn't do Hostel because it's engineered so that you can't survive it, right?
Yeah, and it's torture porn, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we kind of don't like torture porn. We've done Saw. We did Saw because it, like, even though it's a similar thing where, like, you're in a trap and you can't escape unless you do one thing. Like, because in those situations, it's do the thing that you have to do to survive and you'll survive.
Yeah.
Or in Hostel, it's do the series of contrivances that happen in order to escape and you might survive.
Yeah.
So they don't really make for good How to Survive chat.
Yeah, and we only covered Saw within the realms of the
Marathon,
video.
yeah.
And that's the context of that means that it's more about the sort of gross out stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I guess applies with Hostel. But then I still think that the tone is subtly different, but quite importantly different.
But it's like later Saw films where the focus is different. The focus is on pain and violence and torture.
But Saw, there's like a distancing element in Saw, which is the like how elaborate the traps are. Whereas in Hostel, it's just like wannabe Joseph Mengele's.
Basically, yeah.
Who like blowtorch people's eyes out because that's what they want to do. There's no like
higher reason.
Yeah, well, there's no higher reason in Saw either, really.
Well, there is. But the first one has the question, would you cut your foot off to survive?
Right, yeah. But what I mean in Hostel, it's not like, you know, they're in an elaborate trap where if they, you know, chew their hand off, the blowtorch won't go in their eye. It's just you're tied to a chair and a man you've never seen before is going to blowtorch your eye out because he's paid some sex traffickers to strap you to a chair. Like, that's it. There's not a, like you say, there's not a survival element to it. I don't think we'd enjoy watching them. And I think if we did talk about them, it would just be us saying that
an hour and a half.
Yeah, that we thought it was repulsive. So maybe we will cover it eventually, but I think, you know, strap in if we do.
Yes. Thank you though, Jake, for the email.
Yeah, thank you.
That's not to say we haven't taken it into consideration.
Yeah, and
it's fair to suggest it's obviously a well-known horror film, but
yeah,
we have to. We're curating the list as much as we are watching the films. This next email is from Jin Pan Feather, which is a good name.
Nice. Yeah.
Hello, my dear fellows. I really enjoy listening to the podcast. I would just like to say I was somewhat disappointed to see you disregard the Psycho sequels in the Psycho episode. Having watched the sequels, I found them rather good. They are clearly the result of a directorial vision and aren't just cheap cash grabs. I think it would be well cool if you could cover the Psycho sequels at some point. I would be interested to hear what you have to say about them. Keep up the good work, boys. P.S. You should totally do Hostel at some point. Although I imagine that's on your list already. I would also recommend the films Life Force and Phase 4. Do you know whether there is?
No, I've never heard of either of those.
So see above for Hostel.
Yeah.
And we will put Life Force and Phase 4 on the list.
And Psycho 2. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where they go with it. I think they get quite weird.
Jin Pan signs off. See you later.
Thanks very much for your email.
Thanks, Jin Pan. And thank you everyone who emailed.
Yeah.
The email address again is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. You can also tweet us at howtosurvivepod.
Yes.
Next week is Snow Pisser.
We'll see you then.
And until next time. Doop doop.